Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story?
Hello, Weirdsville. Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. Welcome to the weekly rendition of The Weird. I am your host, Barry Johnston. With me, as always, my best friend, Mr. Adam Beebe. How are you, sir?
Hello, Barry. I am doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. I came home last night to a huge field fire. Thought my neighborhood was on fire. And
well, that's lovely.
Oh my Lord, it was quite a sight. There's a huge field. They decided to set fire to it, and it was questionable.
Yeah.
I don't know if they really understood what they're getting themselves into, but everything's cool. Just a ton of smoke.
Was it windy?
It was a little bit windy. And the thing,
gotta be careful, especially out there.
Oh yeah, and it was huge. I mean, it was a huge field, man. I bet you 100 acres, 80 acres, huge.
Wow.
And fire trucks were all over the place, and it seemed like everybody in town was out by my house looking to see what was going on. So, I'm not kidding. Yeah, I thought my neighborhood was on fire. So anyway, yeah. Besides that, everything's great, man. How about yourself?
Doing all right, man. It's finally getting hot up here. I think I mentioned that last week, but boy, they even cranked up the heat a little bit more. So it's summertime. But I tell you, I've found some nice, cool relief.
Oh yeah,
indoors watching the new Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah,
on Netflix.
Yeah, man. I watched the first episode. I think it was last night. Dude, it's really good.
Dude, really, really good. I did half the first in one night, and then half in another night.
Oh, shit. You're way ahead.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, well, I also stayed up way too late watching it. And, of course, one thing that's happened to me that I've gotten older that I've at least been aware of more is that I have a lot of dreams, and I don't necessarily remember them all, but I just know I dream a lot, and I dream pretty vividly.
Uh-huh.
And there, some of the stuff that I watched on Unsolved Mysteries kind of bled through into my dreams, and wow, yeah, wore me out, man.
I'm sure.
Got a couple of nights of not very good rest, but I'll take that because the cases that they did, most of them are missing persons type cases. Yeah. Like that first one where the guy fell through the roof.
Man, how weird. And I love those kinds of shows anyway, but it just seemed like they did a really, really good job. I like that they didn't, have a host per se. You know what I mean? It's not based around, because that guy, he was the character of the show.
Yeah, you can't beat Robert Stack.
Yeah. Sure. But it was so well done. The production's fantastic, and they go deep on these stories. And so I'm excited, man. I now that you said that, so I watched the first one, and I'm like, damn, that was really good. And then I kind of put it on the back burner, but now I gotta get through it. So I gotta get through that. Yeah,
there's a really good one. There's one UFO one, which is really cool.
Okay, cool.
And then there's like some other murders and stuff. But
Sweet.
but yeah, I think they're better. They're better made.
Yes,
now, there's only a few of them, but they're more polished.
Yes.
They're more well produced.
Yep.
And they're more documentary type.
Exactly.
Series. But in the completely in the vein of the original, and they even do have. If you look at the introduction, because they use very similar music.
Exactly. They just kind of.
And then at the very.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
At the very end of the opening credits, you'll see a kind of smoky figure of Robert Stack there.
Nice.
Who, as a tribute to him, because he died. He had cancer and he died while they were still making that show, because that show was on for a long time.
It was on for a long time. Yeah, it seems like they took those cases and they really took their time with them, because the other show was kind of, didn't they have they would do a few cases sort of crammed into one show, right?
Yes.
Yeah. From what I remember. Usually
it was kind of like they were an hour long, and they were kind of like, well, actually, I guess they would have been more like 45 minutes because it was on network TV.
Right.
And, you couldn't get they couldn't get explicit. They couldn't, they had to, like, the people in these are more straightforward and real. Right. They're not TV talk. They're being real interviewed. They're talking like they normally would. They would had a few small vignettes. But now they're really focusing, like you said, really in depth on each individual case.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it's fantastic, dude. It is fantastic.
Heck yeah, man.
So another thing I've been catching up on my The Flash, which is the superhero, the fastest man alive, Barry Allen, who you always, when we were little kids, we were playing superheroes. You and my two best friends were the Flash, as you were the Barry Allen Flash, and Jay Whipple was the Jay Garrick Flash. And the only superhero that had the name Adam was Adam Strange, who now I love, but as a little kid, you just didn't want to be, that's not a superhero name you wanted to associate with.
Of course.
But anyway, I digress. Because obviously I love superheroes, love comic books, all of that stuff. If you know me, you know that. Yes. But I was watching it. I'm really getting into it because The Flash is the best of the TV series. The DC has done a really good job on their TV series for their superhero characters. Not so much in the movies, but they're super solid on the TV shows. And The Flash is probably the best of the network ones. And so they did this. I'm catching up, and they had this crossover where they had all the different shows coming into each other. And there was one where Superman, first, shows up on the scene, and he, pulls his shirt open to show the S like he normally does. Like, okay, now I'm getting ready to turn into Superman from Clark Kent to Superman. Yeah. And he did that, and I just went, ooh, I giggled like a little child, and I was like, oh god, But I texted a friend about it, and I hit the wrong. I ended up sending it to the wrong person. Unfortunately, I didn't embarrass myself. I sent it to our buddy Sam.
That's hilarious.
He's a juggalo, but so really, there's not much you can do to embarrass yourself compared to that. Saying that publicly, but I sent it to Sam, and he totally responded like normal. I mean, obviously, this was like, oh, well, this is kind of weird out of the blue type of comment, but okay. But he also understood it was me, so I totally was not like, an embarrassing thing or anything.
That's hilarious. Like that. That's awesome. That's funny.
Today, getting past all of that, and today our guest is Bobbi, and I've known Bobbi for a few years now. She's super cool, and she's super talented musician, and she's got some. I've been on Bobbi to be a guest for quite a while because I knew she had stuff. I knew she's kind of a person who's just had an interesting life, and I know she's got all sorts of interesting stories. And she's like, "Well, I kind of have this one. I don't know." And so I was like, "Well, we'll talk." And then because as we've said before, when we talk to people, often they have one story, but then they start to remember all these other things. Yep. And guess what?
Yep. Here we go. Yeah. We had a great conversation with her. One little story turned into a full blown episode, and we had this is a great conversation. And this is the reason why we enjoy doing this. We enjoy talking to people because, people are, at least the ones that listen to our podcast and that come on, are pretty interesting people, and they have a varied background of education and it was a great time, and we appreciate her for coming on.
Yeah. So, Bobbi, thank you for joining us. What's your weird story?
So I went to jail for the first time at 31. I think. I actually am not sure if I was 30 or 31. But I went to jail, and I was in a what is it, like a solitary confinement for 3 or 4 days. And then after that, I went to the regular population. And I was sitting in my cell, like in the middle. So there wasn't anything around me. Cells are pretty empty. They're searched every day. I had no one else as a cellmate at that time. And I was just sitting in the middle of the cell. I had nothing, but we get like one outfit, and that's it. And I'm just sitting there with my legs crossed, and I had a book in my lap. And I looked up, and a pencil fell right into my lap. And I didn't see it fall from anything, but I saw it fall, like it feels like maybe a foot above my head is when I kind of saw it. And then I watched it come down, and I felt it hit my book.
Whoa.
And I heard it hit my book, and I saw it hit my book.
Whoa. And
I was freaking out. Like, my first thought was just, I was instantly excited because I'm a writer, and I didn't have a pencil. Like, that's what I wanted to do, was just write. I had a lot going on in my head. And so I was excited, and I like started looking around for the pencil right away. And then I kind of started to feel crazy because it was very real, but now I'm in this panic state because I can't find it, and I don't understand like what happened. I never found it. Like, it was just so, and the thing is that, so I don't know if you've been to jail, but it's not like in the movies, like there's no bars, nobody could throw anything through the door at me.
Yeah.
There's just no way that you can hide anything in a cell, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein. Like,
right.
You've got nothing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think what really tripped me out was, so I'm a fairly rational person, I hope. I'm really into math and science, and I just go there. So my first reaction after being excited was to try to rationalize it. Like, well, shit, what's going on? Where did this come from? And I spent the next 9 months in jail, like, trying to figure out what happened that day. And I still haven't. I watched, have you ever played that game, 4D Toys?
No.
So there's this game on Steam. I think it's like $12. You should definitely get it. But it basically makes you understand how we can't comprehend anything outside of 3 dimensions. Yeah. So you've got these toys like falling in front of you, and then it looks like they just kind of disappear and like or they reappear out of nowhere, but it's only because we can't perceive it. And then it'll also go back and show you what it's like to see 3D things in a 2D world. So that way you can go back into the 3D world and, make sense of it. But so I played that game, and while I was playing it, I thought of the pencil, like right away, because I thought about how I saw it, fall down and heard it, felt it, everything. But it felt like it just came out of nowhere, and then it just disappeared again.
Yeah.
And, it was just one of those moments where I was like, that was the only way I could make sense of it. And it just clicked. And I've already kind of gone through the, trying to rationalize it by saying, well, I was in jail for the first time. Like, I was probably having a psychotic break or something like that. But, or, maybe it was because I didn't have people around, but I was actually really okay in jail. Like, jail was a break. Yeah. And I had no distractions. I had I think I was the most mentally stable in jail than I've ever been.
Wow.
So it just didn't, it didn't make sense to me how it happened. And the only way that I can make sense of it is through math. And the math is there. Like, man, I wish you guys could just see this game so you can understand what I was talking about. But, yeah, I don't know. And what's weird is I went on Reddit, and you know that subreddit, Glitch in the Matrix?
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I posted it in there, and there were like 5 or 6 people who responded, and they were like, I believe you. That has happened to me.
Wow.
Not a pencil, but one guy said it was a cigarette. It was like a group of him and his friends, and they were sitting around in the basement, concrete ceiling, kind of just like in the jail, nothing around them. And they were talking about how great it would be to have a cigarette. And they were like, I mean, they were kids. Mm-hmm. And they said one just dropped in the middle, like in between them. And that felt more sinister than a pencil.
Right.
in jail. You know, when it's kids and it's something like that. And then another girl said that something similar happened with a necklace, but I kind of thought that one through. And if you've ever worn a necklace, it's pretty common that it'll just like unclick and fall in your lap. So I don't know about that one, but there were some stories that I heard and I was like, you know, that sounds a lot like what happened.
Wow.
It reminds me of a story that our friend Heather told about how she'll be, and this happens to her frequently, but she'll be somewhere and she'll just get like, basically she'll get like a drop of water or rain on her, but there's nothing around to make that droplet. It's not like a leaky pipe or anything like that. But this has happened 2 or 3 times in her life where she'll just all of a sudden like be hit by some, you know, a droplet of water.
Is it like a big drop or?
It's one enough that's like noticeable, you know. Uh-huh. So I guess kind of like, you know, a relatively big drop, not like just a little, you know, little droplet, but a full-blown drop, I guess. I don't know. Right. But it's
a bucket.
But, not a bucket, but, you know, so. But, yeah, so it makes me wonder if there is something, because there is that whole idea about the glitch in the Matrix. There's, it makes me think that maybe there's something to where like willful thought or some kind of manifestation of this, but then it like, I don't know if it's you made some maybe you made something appear into reality, but were shocked by its appearance that it immediately went away.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's the only thing that I could, and that's woo woo, but still. I mean, there's so much strange things that happen in this universe.
The strangest thing about
I don't think there's limitations.
Right. Well, the strangest thing about it is like jail cells are usually pretty gone. They're gone through pretty extensively. So if it were something that would have been left behind from somebody, like that would have been found. You would think.
Yeah, there's no leaving behind in there.
Did you ever? Also, no, go ahead.
A pencil to me seems like something that they might not want you to have because that could be, you know, contraband. That could be a weapon.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't a jail pencil that I saw. Jail pencils are those little golf pencils,
right?
So there's no eraser. It's just those tiny little pencils. This was like a pencil.
Wow.
I mean, it was yellow like those, but it wasn't a jail one.
And you never brought this up to anybody else? You never talked to anybody about it?
No, because I just assumed, you know, people would think that either I was crazy, I went crazy,
right?
And I'm still crazy, you know. Right. I just don't. No, Reddit was the first time I ever brought it up.
Do you have any writings that you wrote with from that pencil? Like, do you have anything from that?
That I wrote? No, because I didn't have that pencil.
It disappeared.
It disappeared, yeah.
Oh, it disappeared. Sorry.
But I did write the whole 9 months in jail. That's all I did.
Right.
And I wonder if that's so. You know, the woo-woo you were saying, you were saying familiar. There were some suggestions there too, like, you know, people on Reddit, of course. they would suggest that maybe I manifested it, but it didn't belong, or I wasn't strong enough, or I didn't realize what I was doing, so it disappeared. There was also someone said, it's almost like with you being a writer, it's almost like you had someone looking out for you. And even if they couldn't let you keep the pencil physically, they could at least make it obvious, make you look at it, think about it, and then you'd know what to do, like while you were there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's so much that I think the coolest thing is that the more I've tried to rationalize it with what most people would say it would be common sense, like the sciences, what's been proven, the more I feel like it is possible that it was there. Like it was really there.
Yeah.
And I've caught myself like, seeing things or whatever. And I knew like, well, that was weird. I obviously just saw something, nothing like that experience at all.
Yeah.
And it's really just bugged me.
Yeah. That's wild.
What kind of things have you seen that were weird?
Well, I was actually on camera for one of them. And it was when I was streaming and I was sitting in my living room and I saw my husband at the time. He wasn't home, but I saw him walk in and look at me, and he walked by my piano. He was wearing a white t-shirt, like walked right by into the bedroom. And I was streaming every day at that point. And I think it was at like 11, but I saw him walk in. I said, hey, and then he walked into the bedroom. And then I went back to my computer and I started talking. And then I was like, wait, he's not. Is he here? So then I got up and I went to look for him, and he wasn't there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so I called him afterwards and I was like, hey, did you, stop by the house? And he was like, no. Wow. I'm like getting chills right now. I forgot about that. But
that's a doppelganger. That's a straight up doppelganger story.
Are there stories about this like out there where it's not just a twin, but like another you? And see, what if that, so the multiverse theory, right?
Right.
I mean, that's something that I guess I could, but it was also weird because it didn't seem like at the time, it was just normal. It was normal to see my husband walking through the house. So I didn't think anything of it. But looking back, he did seem different, like those people who are just kind of dead inside. Sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the Scandinavian term. It's doppelganger, and it's basically it's not exactly like an evil twin, but it is a duplicate of someone, and it is often a dark version of them, kind of, or it's more of it's a like you described. He was him, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it just seemed off or sad.
Right, exactly. And you should look into this. You should do some. That's
another Reddit search for you.
Yeah.
God, okay.
Or, because I mean, in this, there's a long history of doppelganger stuff. Like this goes back like centuries. It's a long, deep tradition in those Scandinavian countries, and so that's what it sounds like to me. We had somebody. On our show, my friend Shannon, he came on and he told us when he was little, his family would see him on one or two occasions, but they would see him and he was being mischievous and he was like running down the hall and like hitting all the doors and then running out the front door, and then his family like what was that all about? And then he comes out of like the bathroom because he just taken a shower, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but that's that's like this is it's an occurrence that is that's happened before, and you could say noted. You could say that that maybe there's something wrong with the Matrix. If you believe in that particular model of understanding the universe, or it could be that it's something something out of time or out of dimensional, extra dimensional.
That's what I was going to say. Is maybe it's a residual something or other that, which would be. Either way is weird, right?
Yeah. And
now, do you ever hear stories? Because I actually do have a weird situation that happened in Goldsboro, and I'm kind of wondering now if, since you know about these things,
we've heard all kinds of weird shit from Goldsboro.
Yeah. What about how there's fields everywhere? I don't know if there is now, but when I lived there, it was fields everywhere. I lived in a trailer park, Wayne Woods. It was right off Antioch Road. And there was a field, and my friend and I, her name's Megan. I wonder if I think she still lives in Goldsboro. She's got some weird stories too. I should actually reach out to her. But anyway, so we were driving home in our car at night, and we went by we drove by the field, and there were these lights that were like bluish, and they were like going like this, just kind of random over the field. And so we were like, what the hell is that? And we're just like slowed down a little bit, and we watched it, and it was there for a long time. We drove real slow next to it, just trying to figure out what the hell we were looking at. And we were like, are those fireflies? Like, how when you were a kid, I guess, and you first started smoking weed, like a firefly would look like a UFO. You know what I mean? So, like, we were like trying to figure out, we weren't high, but that's what it reminds me of. We were trying to figure out, like, what the hell are we looking at? Is that like a bug? Is it a plane? Because we couldn't tell how far away it was. Like, nothing about it made sense. We couldn't tell if it was close or far, or like what was going on. So we saw those lights, and then we just drove home, like nothing happened. But we went inside, and I like immediately told my parents. I was like, we saw these fucking lights. Like, it was, I don't know how to explain it. Do you guys want to go look at them? And then my mom and Carl, my stepdad, they looked like terrified, but it had nothing to do with the lights. They told me that so we had, it was back when you had like the tape phone.
Yeah.
What are they called? I don't even remember.
Answer machines. Yep.
Oh my God. I'm like, Messenger.
You're talking to a couple of old dudes. We know.
Yeah.
So, oh my God. All right. So they came home, and they saw that they had 2 messages. So they pressed play to listen to the messages, and they heard on the message, it was like the outgoing message. So it's not like someone picked up the phone, but it was like they had recorded this. But we checked the recording, like their message, their voices were there, but you just didn't hear it. Instead, you heard this weird, like whispery, and it's so fucking cheesy. I don't even want to say the words that they said, but they said, go home and get revived. And they said that 3 times. And my aunt is on the phone, and she's like, Michelle, Carl, is that you? And then they're just saying, go home and get revived. And it was like real, like old person, like, wispy, creepy ass voice. Wow. And so they hang up, and then right after that, there's another one, because my aunt called right back. She's like, what the fuck? Like, she was thinking somebody like had broken into the house, or either, my parents were sick or dying on the phone or something. So she called back, and she's like, hey, Michelle, Carl, is that you? What's going on? And then they're just like, I can't understand what they were saying in the second one. But it was the same like voice.
Wow.
And so my mom and dad are real spiritual. So my dad like got out the sage instantly, and they burned it. But shortly after that, like there was a good week or two where weird shit was going on in the house. My mom found a snake on the back of the toilet.
Wow.
She got locked into the bathroom, and she's like crying and screaming, locked into the bathroom, and there's a fucking snake on the back of the toilet.
Oh my God.
And I had this poster over my bed, and I couldn't fall asleep because I felt like someone was suffocating me. and I would see like 3 people standing over my bed. My mom had to buy, you know how back in the day, you could buy an extra phone line for your house?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had my own phone number, but it was the same phone line.
Right.
So I had a phone, and my mom had me keep it in my bed so that whenever that happened, I could just call her, because I was so scared. I couldn't breathe. Someone was suffocating me, 3 people.
Oh my God.
So that's how we took care of that. But my stepdad came in, and he's like trying to figure out, he's like got his sage. He's doing his whole, I don't know what he does, but weirdo shit, but he's awesome, so it's okay. But he came in, and he's like, where is it coming from? And he went up to the poster, and it was just some poster that I bought at the fair, the county fair, and he like ripped it down. So he burned the machine, he burned the poster, and he burned the oh God, there was something else. I don't remember. It was something. No, he didn't burn it. Kept the toilet. No, there was something else. So all I remember is it was like a blue piece of fabric. But my mom said she like saw a little girl running through the house once, like a little girl in I don't fucking know. Wow. But it was like 2 weeks of that. They burned it, and then nothing ever happened again. And we didn't really talk about it after that.
Wow.
I do remember overhearing my mom saying something about finding out that we were on a Indian burial ground or something, but I don't know how much of that is true. But yeah, that was a weird couple of weeks.
That sounds.
Still never connected the lights. Don't know what those were.
All right, so we got a lot to unpack here, and because I've had goosebumps, and the hair on my arm's been standing up straight for the past 5 minutes since the blue lights. Hey Barry, do you know what's coming up?
I think something pretty special, right?
I kind of think it's pretty special. Very soon, our 100th episode.
Wow.
That's right, Weirdsville. 100 episodes of the What's Your Weird Story podcast. 100 regular episodes have come out, and we want to hear from you. If you would like to call into the hotline and wish us a happy 100 episodes, just say something in your message or whatever, tell us how we're doing or whatever. We ask you to please do that, and we will include it in the show. That hotline is 513-909-9821. That's 513-909-9821. I forgot to do it in the radio voice the first time. Okay, so first thing, I thought that when you were talking about the blue lights, I'm like, well, maybe this is some kind of UFO activity, because there's the Air Force Base that's right there.
Oh, Seymour Johnson.
Right. So you often see a lot of UFO activity around Air Force bases because of just the nature of the beast on that stuff.
Yeah.
But in connection with all the other stuff that you're talking about, it seems like those might have been like some kind of like, maybe those were spirits or something, or maybe they weren't, and you just happen to have these two weird experiences. Yeah, this bout of high strangeness that those weren't necessarily linked with what was happening at home. But the stuff that's happening at the house, that is so okay. You got the voices on that was creepy as hell. I don't know what that was. I'll go home and revive. I would be freaking out about that, and understandable why your parents were so
freaked out, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what I want to get to in your bedroom when you felt like there's a heaviness on your chest and you couldn't move, and you saw 3 figures. What did they look like?
I mean, I couldn't tell you. Silhouette? Is that
okay?
Yeah, I mean they distinctly had faces, but they were. I can't say they were tall. I was a kid, and I'm 4'11".
Yeah.
But to me, they felt tall, silhouette, and had hair. They had faces. But they were. I could see faces. I could see like a face shape, like a human face shape, you know.
But could you see detail, like features?
No.
So basically, they were all shadows, right?
No, I could. They had like lit faces, kind of, but it was like, I don't know, like I guess how you would describe like a moonlit face or something, you know, like not ominous, but not distinct, but I could see like a face, skin looking.
Wow.
You know,
it sounds. Pardon me. Did any of them wear hats?
I don't remember hats.
Okay, because it sounds like classic shadow people that you saw there.
Yeah.
And there is the state in which, again, this is from a scientific approach, the state in which you are, when you're sleeping and then you wake up and you feel like you have a heaviness on your chest and you can't move your body and you can't speak or anything like that, that is called sleep paralysis. There's another name. It's called hypogogia or something like that I can't pronounce because I'm not good with like that many syllables in a word. But that's sleep paralysis. And part of sleep paralysis is that people often have these kind of weird, they see things.
Yeah.
Some people will see a super scary demon type creature. Some people will see aliens. Some people will see, like, you know, ghosty people or angels, and a lot of people see these silhouetted people that are shadow people.
Yeah. So
that's not an unusual thing. Now, science, it doesn't know exactly what it is, but they try to say that it's probably your brain is waking up. Well, more of your brain is in a state between consciousness and sleep. Mm-hmm. And your body has not responded and come out of sleep with the rest of with your brain. So your brain is aware, somewhat aware. Your eyes are seeing things.
You know why that doesn't make sense to me, though? Have you ever kicked in a dream? Like, you're not paralyzed when you're sleeping. You know what I mean? And I definitely kicked myself awake because I was afraid in a dream.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why I don't know if I can buy that theory. I mean, dreams and how bizarre they are and what the fuck they're for is wild enough. But to be I mean, I've only ever been paralyzed awake, you know, wide awake and afraid. So that, you know, I don't think science, I think science might be overlooking something there. Trying to explain it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's again, you know, science is trying to use the framework that it understands. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But it doesn't understand everything, especially when it's connected to the human brain.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and sleep especially so.
Right.
But that's, you know, but
and that part when you're hovering between consciousness and unconsciousness is a weird state, man. You can tap into some crazy shit, dude. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried to work through dreams, like when you feel yourself falling, you know, that part where like you feel yourself starting to dream, you're not quite awake yet or quite asleep yet.
Right.
I think I remember one with a roller coaster, and it was the first time that I had been so like present in a dream before, and I want to get back to that.
Right. Lucid dreaming. Yeah. Where you consciously make the decision to alter or participate in the dream.
Yes.
Yeah. But I've never been able to do it.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. There are ways that apparently that you can focus that and do that. There's a lot of traditions where people do that. But yeah, it is a difficult thing because most people are like, if you recognize that you're in a dream, typically you'll come out of that dream. Mm-hmm. Right. You'll wake up.
Yeah, that's what happened.
That happens to me a lot. That's a good defense for me because a lot of times when I'm having like really, really bad dreams, my brain will say, you know, hey, Adam, this is a dream. It's not real. And then I'm like, okay. And then I can get out.
Right.
but those are like the extra really bad ones. So, but like I can't really do the lucid dreaming. I don't know too many people. I know people who have like kind of gotten a little bit where they could, but it's just mastering that is a whole other thing. And that, again, that might be something that you could look into. But I know you have a million interests.
I've put myself back into a dream, like after sort of, I know I've done that. It's like,
why did you want to go back to it?
Because I liked it so much. Like there's something about it that I was really into. You know, it's like, oh, that was nice. Like, I want to go back. I want to go back in there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I wanted to try to force myself to learn things in dreams. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of people who say that our dreams are specifically for problem solving because we're working at maximum, well, not maximum capacity, but pretty high level capacity when we're awake.
Yeah.
So at night is the only time that we're shut down enough to really work out the kinks and like process what we did during the day and what happened during the day.
Right.
So there are people who have trained themselves to be able to purposefully work through specific problems while they're sleeping.
Right.
I've never been able to do that, probably because I can't lucid dream. But I have tested the theory of like memorization at night. I memorized like the first 50 something digits of pi in one night. And I swear it's because I like set that intention, did it over and over again in my head while I was falling asleep. And then it, committed it to long-term memory.
Yeah.
It's supposedly, because that's the last thing that was on my mind. So in my sleep, I do
that a lot too. I do that a lot. If there's a problem, if there's something that I'm trying to work out, I will make it a point to use that time to go over and over and over and over a problem or something. And then you've got monks that claim that, they can get themselves into a psychedelic state by meditating, that are able, they're able to reach these real depths of meditation. And I think there's something to that. I can't do that. I've always needed substance to make me get into that kind of framework, but they claim that they can get there simply by meditating. The mind is an amazing thing. Yeah. And like where it's like where your brain picks up after your conscious mind is asleep, is a bizarre place. You're talking about multiverse and string theory, DMT, I think all I think all those I think all those things start because everyone's pineal gland produces DMT, and they think that might be part
no, don't say it.
What?
I'm going to say adrenochrome.
Huh?
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry.
No.
I can't talk about that right now.
I'm saying, so DMT they think might be responsible for getting the dream state going. It's also what's responsible for at death that the brain gets flooded with DMT, and it's part of the natural transition in life. And most living organisms have a pineal gland, and it releases DMT, which is fascinating. But regardless, it's cool to talk about, and it's really something that I wish we knew more about. The mind and what it can do.
The DMT release before you died trips me out because I just think, well, how much at what point in your life, how much of it is released before is any released at all, even tiny amounts before we fall asleep?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they think it might be, but...
And then a ton right before you die for the eternal sleep.
Right. Which is, that's the way I want to go, man. I want to go tripping balls, man. You know what
I've wondered I mean, I know there's the obvious, and if I'm getting too weird, feel free to tell me.
Listen, but you can't get too weird. Trust me.
Not on this shit.
I've always wondered how many suicides were more out of curiosity than it was out of like intense pain. Like how many have, and I mean, maybe it takes pain to be that curious, but I've always thought that if that's where I was ever going to go, that if I was ever going to go out that way, it would be more because I just wanted to know. And that's the only way to know, like, what this life is about.
I think that if someone was if they did have that kind of, the idea behind suicide, you know, that would be really, it would have to be kind of, I mean, that you have to really clear off the bucket list. You really would have to do everything else in life you wanted to get there. Now, obviously, there are people who have chemical imbalances and who, and that pushes them towards, unfortunately, you know, and they also have traumas and all these other things that push them towards, you know, thinking the suicide is their way out. And, you know, as somebody who's had suicidal thoughts in the past because of pain and trauma and trying to deal with these things, and fortunately did not, you know, go through with it. You know, I think that's probably more along the lines of, I think suicide is more along the lines of desperation because you don't know, or people, and I can't say for everybody, but, you know, people are just, they're at a point to where to where non-existing seems better than existing. And I think that there's, I think a lot of that is, there's a balance that is off, that, you know, that if, you know, hopefully, I'm saying to anybody out there listening, if you do have suicidal thoughts and you do have this stuff, find somebody to talk to. There's, you know, suicide hotlines and stuff like that to talk to, because, you know, ultimately, as far as we know, we only have this one go around in life. Yeah. So stick around and, you know, because, you know, when think about it, you can think about it kind of like this. When you're little and you go to the county fair or state fair, you see all the rides, and you can ride some of those rides, but some of those other rides, you're not old enough yet, either age-wise or height-wise or whatever. But for some reason, you can't get on those rides just yet. Mm-hmm. In life, that's like life. There's a lot of things that you can't do just yet. You know, that you can't be able to reach to or fully understand or attain if you end at this point. If you cut off your existence, you know, you can't go on. And this is, you know, I mean, I'm approaching, I guess, maybe middle age, or, you know, 3/4 age if I'm going to be long lived. But, you know, it's something that I definitely think about, how it's scary to think about what non-existence is. You know, I mean, because, I mean, some people were like, they're absolutely sure that, well, I'm going to heaven or whatever. This is what my afterlife is going to be, but we don't know for sure. That's where faith comes in for people who believe, you know, that's where their faith is. But I also have a very rational mind to where I don't know what's going to happen. But I also have to tell myself, don't worry about it because you got other things that you can do that are focusing better to enjoy, you know, try to enjoy the life that you do have, the existence that you do have going on. So, I don't know where. Sorry,
did you ever see? You may be too young for this, but did you ever see the movie Flatliners? You need to watch it because it's kind of what you're talking about. It's a group of people that start playing around with dying. They hook IVs up and they simulate dying, or they die, and then they bring them back, and it becomes this thing of how far can we push it? How far can I stay under? You know, was Kevin Bacon in that, Adam?
I think he was. I know that. I believe
this sounds like a very Kevin Bacon movie.
Yeah, it's kind of on that horror bend, sci-fi horror bend, because like, you know, they're all like medical students, right? Mm-hmm. Hotshot medical students, right? And they make this kind of club or whatever, where, like Barry said, they kill themselves, right? And then they time it, and then they bring themselves back.
Yeah. It's a really interesting movie. But another thing about what you're talking about, you know, is curiosity and things like that, right? When it comes to suicide, is I think a lot of it has to do with your intent also. Like, you have to be very intent to end your life. You know what I mean? That takes a level of just being done with it. You know, you know, that's a hard question to answer. And, you know, I've been present when someone has passed, and I can tell you it's incredibly powerful. And I think that if the person, you know, hadn't lived their life the way that they did,
there would have been like an instance of regret.
Yeah,
right before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that everybody's got their threshold, man. You know, and we've had friends that have died, and I've had more than enough friends die from drug overdoses and you know, just sad situations. And it's you know, if you believe spiritually, if you believe in something or whatever, you hope that person is okay, you know, but and then the other side of it is, you know, well, did you learn what you were supposed to learn? Like, there's a part of me that is like, you know, I'm hoping that there's more to the story, because it just doesn't make sense right now for suffering, you know?
Yeah.
That's the thing that really, I think, pushes me in general, like in life, I mean, when it comes to like curiosity of what's after, or because I've kind of felt both. Like, I felt like actual, you know, dread and wanting to die, and like I know how warped that can get in your head. Like, you know, like drinking river water sounds like a good, like it'd be relieving. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I've also had this like intense like wonder about just, I think it's more just having to do, not being able to understand what all of this is.
Yeah.
And what I think the one thought that I had, because I struggle with this a lot, just trying to understand what it all is.
Yep.
What made it more difficult, I think, for me was identifying, and it's probably make me sound insane, but identifying as human rather than connecting and identifying as the same type of consciousness as my cat or as another animal. Like, the only time that it ever feels comfortable to be human and to be living is when I feel like all other living things on the planet or in the world or universe have the exact same kind of consciousness that I do.
Right.
Then it kind of like makes sense.
Right.
Like, it feels right. But this separation that we have, you know, of humans being different, or of us having a different type of, you know, being smarter or being more consciously aware, it's just dreadful.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
I think looking at looking at things under a microscope really, really, like when I look at river water and I look at the different things in there, it feels like I'm looking back in time, where I guess like realistically looking out in space would really be looking back in time. But when I'm looking at in the microscope and I'm looking at amoeba and what are they, flagellates? I don't know the actual. I can only read them. I can't say them. But looking at, I feel like I'm looking at both my history and my future, and time. Like, looking at, like, it's just, it blows me away how quickly they move. Like, they spin around like universes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I can't. Anyway, so my point is, it makes me feel less dreadful and less alone as a human, realizing that the spiders in my balcony are just as conscious and understanding of me as I am of them, and I can connect with them. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. And it's the human paradox. There's a reason why we're given the ability to think on the level that we can think of. It's because it's our responsibility to take care of our surroundings and understand our place in it. And for whatever reason, we've been given that ability. Animals and plants and all these things, they have an ability to communicate, with each other, and with the quote unquote universe or whatever you want to say. But we have the ability to start to put to connect the dots. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to understand. It's like when you zoom out and you look at our place within like the universe itself, the physical universe, I mean, it's like, it's mind blowing. And so at a certain point, it's like, and I love to get to that point where I'm thinking about things on that level. But at the same time, the only influence I have in this universe is my circle of influence, which is very small, and so I'm a big believer in karma, in that, for whatever reason, it's a universal truth that what you do, you will get back, and if it's good, it's good. And if it ain't, it sucks,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why we're given that ability, because it sucks. It is dread. There's a sense of dread. There's a sense of, oh my God. But
it can't be just us, though.
No.
Like, do you ever think about like other beings looking at us in a microscope?
Oh, sure. We talk about that quite a bit.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to formulate my thoughts exactly here and where to enter. But yeah, humankind has given itself through the evolution of our particular brains, and and by creating, it all comes from when we learned to farm, and when we had to and we learned to settle down, and we learned that we had time to do other things than going hunting and farming all the time. So we started to create things, and we created culture and society and government and art and all these great things and all these terrible things. And then we kept growing, and we kept expanding our consciousness and our minds and stuff. And maybe sometimes we shrink our consciousness and shrink our minds, but we kept developing, and we've got to where we are animals. We put ourselves above all the other animals, but we're no better than a lot of them. In fact, we're probably worse in many ways, the way we treat each other, our fellow animals, And
how much we contribute, probably.
Right. Yeah. But we are animals, because we all have the same basic needs. We need to eat, we need to poop, and we need to make more other animals like us. And that's it.
Well, we're the only animal that has a sense of morality, and that's the big difference, right?
Yeah.
Because in the animal kingdom is life of survival. It's life and death every day. And
they save themselves. They save each other, though.
Yeah,
like they go out of their way, and then they can be suicidal.
Mm-hmm. And they can get depressed as well.
Yeah. So I think there has to be. I think that's where I disagree. I feel like they definitely have a sense of morality as well, but maybe.
So if you're a cheetah out on the sea, out on the desert, you're looking for what's readily available. I mean, that's just the way that it is.
We do that at the supermarket too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm saying. That the difference is we have a choice.
Right.
In the matter.
That's where I was saying is like we constructed that. We constructed morality as one of the things that we did because we need morals to survive in our groups. That's something that we came up with morality and rules and laws so that we can all live together and not always fight and steal and kill each other, even though that still happens, obviously.
Right.
Right. But, so that we can coexist, and that helps us by coexisting and helping and living as units. That helps us keep all, the bigger predators away.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. We're surviving, but we also created these this complicated other structures within ourselves, with, like I said, with morality and with religions and laws and culture and art and all these other things, that we've created to not only occupy time, but occupy our minds, which has unlocked a lot of things in our minds and expanded our consciousness and made us be able to think abstractly and have these particular conversations, and observe these unusual and weird things that do happen within this universe that we cannot explain, but my cats aren't really concerned about that because they don't have to worry about that. They just they're chill, they watch TV. And like there are things that they respond to on television more than others, so I know their little brains are thinking. I know that one of them is she's a little turd, and she'll do things purposely to get me upset or be revengeful if I don't do something that she likes, That's high consciousness of something that's happening there. And dogs are very conscious, and dolphins, we just don't know how to communicate very efficiently with all these other creatures. Because I think if we found a way that we could talk efficiently, I think we will find some animals would be children, and some animals would be teenagers, and some animals would probably be grandparents and a lot more wise than what we are.
Whales.
Right.
Do you know how much it messed me up when I found out, and I didn't find out until an adult somehow, I found out that, was it whales or was it dolphins? Now I'm second guessing myself. Which one evolved to be a land animal and then went back to being a...
Whales.
Yeah,
whales are
Tripped
from...
me out.
They're from the wolf family.
Yeah. How?
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yep.
And what made them want to go back? Like, how did that happen?
Survival. They had to, they went back to where they were more easily able to find a food source.
And so,
of course, that's,
sea lions were land animals too, right? So we're watching sea lions evolve into being just sea animals. Is how because they've got their little flip still.
but I think we've answered the question of why religion exists. It's to handle these heavy issues without having to handle heavy issues. But at the same time, hey, people get a lot out of it, and there's something to be said for it. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't slag anybody for whatever it is that gets them to where they need to be, because these questions will drive you insane.
God,
and nobody
they will.
Nobody knows 100% for sure. Nobody knows, but they believe, and they can be 100% faithful and true to their beliefs.
Right.
But knowledge we won't know until because it'll be past that, because in all likelihood,
well, and we
die, and our consciousness goes out, and then does it fizzle out? Does it become part of the universal consciousness? Do we move on to another existence or another plane of existence or another multiverse? Or are we just, worm food?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
yeah, it's interesting shit. It's fun to talk about.
Say, Barry.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
That's a good question. It would either have to be the time that I worked at a cattle feedlot or the time that I worked for a Greek painter.
Were you his model?
Not quite.
Well, it's funny because one of my weirdest jobs was being a model in art school, but it was portraits, not full body nude. The reason I'm asking is because those jobs may be kind of normal, but we know people are out there that have weirder jobs than that. Maybe you're a mortician. Maybe you're a scientist trying to bring back the dinosaurs or the woolly mammoth.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool. If you guys out there have weird jobs, unusual jobs, crime scene photographer, maybe you worked at an adult educational film set. if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Just something that's unusual, out of the ordinary, and, a little bit weird. Hey, those are cool stories too. We'd love to hear those. So give us a call or an email or whatever. You know how to get a hold of us. Be part of the community of Weirdsville.
I want to know what you make of the my mom getting locked in the bathroom.
That's just weird.
That's some weird shit.
So it's not there's no archetype for that.
Well, I mean, that could be some kind of poltergeist activity, right, or some kind of
haunting issue.
Yeah, especially with the snake being there.
Yeah, man.
And with there being the shadow people around, because shadow people are typically, I don't want to scare you, shadow people are something that people typically see throughout their life, and they're a reoccurring thing, and they tend to be not necessarily very nice. They are often, but they often don't interact. They just kind of like hover, and they're just kind of like, I guess if anything, there maybe they're like energy or psychic vampire type stuff. I don't know exactly. I'm not sure because I'm not a supernatural professor or anything like that. We're collecting.
You know more than I do, though.
I do know. I think that the fact that you were talking about it could be like an Indian burial, like if that's factual, man, there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens.
Yeah.
With and
we have the Skinwalkers Ranch here in Utah.
Yeah. Dude. Have you watched the documentary on that?
I don't know if I can. We just did our ancestry and found out that we're my family's from New Mexico, mm-hmm. and we're Navajo and Apache. So I've been like really wanting to. I'm too scared, I guess is what. Right. I'm not ready for that. Yeah. I don't know. I've heard some crazy stories though.
Oh yeah.
And I've been to a reservation once. My parents used to buy cigarettes from a reservation, but I've never really. I don't know why I'm so scared of it, but it is. I'm a little.
You're probably sensitive to it,
Maybe.
I would think, knowing you, I think you probably are. I think there's probably a lot more weird things that have happened in your life that you've probably just kind of like shrugged off. You've probably had more high strangeness. Sure. And I think a lot of people are like that. Yeah. That a lot of things we don't understand, so we don't make note of them, and we just shrug them off, and we just let them happen, and we just forget about it because it doesn't fall in the normal, and we don't have the frame of reference. But for sometimes and for some people, those things are like, because we don't have the frame of reference, that's why we're so particularly drawn to, make note of it and look into it and try to understand it, or at least learn more about it. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you remember when I got that telescope? I was the lights on the mountain.
Yeah.
That was out by the Skinwalkers Ranch. Those lights I was seeing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. That's not unusual for Skinwalker Ranch. So I don't doubt that at all. I mean, yeah. Dang. It's wild stuff. But I think as far it seems like there was something that was definitely happening there at your parents' house. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was Indian burial ground, because that's almost generic American thing, mm-hmm. But and especially since the movie Poltergeist, the first one, came out. But at the same time, I know over in that area in North Carolina, there was Native, Americans that were living there. There's I think there's a lot of Cherokee in that area.
Cherokee, yep.
And
my mom and dad are pretty. They're both pretty sensitive.
Right.
I remember walking up to her house once with my mom, and she just stopped at the door and said, "Nope, back in the car."
Wow.
Yeah.
And she never, told me what happened. But when we got older and we started talking about this, she said that she just felt like something wrong, and it was overwhelming, and her heart was like going nuts. And she was like, "We couldn't walk into that house.
Wow.
It was bad."
Wow.
And my stepdad, Carl, he told me a story, and he actually told me the story right after the stuff happened in the house. But he said that he went to his grandma's house once, and he walked down the stairs into the basement, and it felt like he was like falling into the stairs, like there was no floor there. Mm. So he got like creeped out. So he walked back upstairs, and then he like grabbed a Pepsi out of the kitchen, walked over to his grandma who was sitting there, and he had one of those lamps that the like lamp. This is the lamp.
Yeah.
It had like the round base and then like the skinny, like the brass one. Yeah. And so he said it started rotating on the base, and it just like went further and further out until it was like, wow, and he ran out of the house, and he never went back to his grandma's house.
Wow. Ooh.
So there's definitely I mean, maybe that's why they were more scared too, because they knew that something was off.
Right.
Yeah. And there's certainly, I think that there's obviously people who are sensitive and more perceptive of these kinds of things are more aware of it. And it could be that this kind of stuff is always happening around us, that we don't perceive it because through our normal, very limited abilities, we have our five senses, and they're not very good at all.
Yeah.
But like, they have that extra bit, and it may be that they just are more aware of it. And like I said, like this is always going on, or it could be that because they have these abilities, that things are more drawn to them, or they could have been playing around with the Ouija board or something that,
my mom did that in Puerto Rico.
Oh, and there you go.
Yeah, she did it in the bathroom. So voodoo is pretty big in Puerto Rico. But she did it in the bathroom. I guess she was about 28 and I was real young. So her and her friends thought it would be like funny. So they're in the bathroom and they've got candles lit, and mom said that the like candle went out, and for 3 hours she was gone. She had no clue where she was.
Whoa.
She was gone, but she wasn't. She was there. She was like walking around talking to her friends, but being a total like bitch, basically.
Wow.
Like just not herself. And she said that after that, she never let me have anything like that in the house, because she thinks that something passed through her. And I don't know. I think at the time I thought like, whoa, mom's nuts. But as I got older and I started to experience things myself, I was like, Jesus, like, she's not crazy.
Yeah.
She feels stuff, and she's got, what's really interesting is both her and my dad both have multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered they're finding out now that's more of a bacterial thing, but I'm wondering now if when you go through that, if you're actually experiencing, if it's traumatic to go through experiences like that. And since they've gone through so many experiences like that, and they're so sensitive to them, and like almost like they feed off each other,
Right.
Like you can develop, because a lot of those are trauma induced.
Right.
A lot of those types of illnesses. So I don't know. I just always thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
How quickly after North Carolina they developed that.
Yeah.
But it also could have been because they both worked at Case Farms, so I don't know.
Right.
There's that.
Wow.
But yeah, man, I guess there's been a lot of stuff that comes up.
Yeah.
It's like I come to, how it took me a year and a half to try and think of a story to tell you. And I remember one, and there were actually like tons of them.
Yeah.
I knew. I just knew.
Yeah.
I just knew.
This is how it happens. Yeah. This is how it happens. People come on, they're like, oh, I got a story. But then when you get the ball rolling, it's like, oh man. And that's the thing too, is if you live your life with your feelers out, your perceptors out, you're gonna accumulate over, in my case, 45 years of life, you're gonna accumulate some weird shit. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, to bring the conversation back around to the things that we can't explain and why these questions exist, it's like we live in an existence that's full of high strangeness, UFO sightings, ghosts, everything in between life and death, and weird stuff that happens on a daily basis that you can't explain, people calling and hearing voices and wild shit, man. It's like, I hope we figure it all out whenever it is the final day on this planet, you know. I hope it all makes sense.
I'm betting it's somewhere in the math world.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out first.
There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said for that, man. You know? That's one thing, like, I don't understand quantum physics, but I really like the idea of it.
Right.
My brain, I just can't get my head around it, but I do like
because it's not gonna, like, it'll never make sense.
Right.
Because it's not, the laws there are so different from the laws that we are used to.
Exactly.
And that what we think is obvious science, go into the quantum world, it's a totally different world. Nothing behaves the same at all.
Right.
And they're just finding out this new stuff about, for some reason I've been reading a lot about magnetism. Mm-hmm. There are these small microbes that the only way they travel is because they have magnets inside of them and if the magnets are aligned, then that's how they know they're going the right direction. They only travel in 2 dimensions. They go north and south, and that's it. The magnetic poles. Okay. And they can't handle too much oxygen. So that's why they stay pretty deep, but they make sure those magnets are aligned in them. And if you look these up, I can't remember what they're called, but if you look up magnetic microbes and you look at a picture of these, it looks like a tiny little microbe with 3 or 4 magnets in it. Wow. And it just keeps them aligned, and that's how it knows where to go. And then they're finding magnetic, it's not magnetic pulses, it's something else. I don't think it has anything to do with dark matter, but they're finding like how common like magnetic things are in space as well, or in the universe. Yep. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that there are tiny microorganisms that use magnets like in their bodies to survive and to travel. They don't even have to think about their role. They just what they do. It has to feel,
That's wild.
And that they could connect to, space. I don't know. It's just...
It's crazy. It nuts. Is.
Everything works too well.
Yeah, man. No kidding.
Yep. And then we think we see these anomalies, and we have to know right away that's not an anomaly. Like there's a reason.
Right.
We just got to figure out what it is.
Right.
But exactly. Quantum physics is just like that. It's like a whole bunch of anomalies.
Right.
So you just have to learn how to exist in a completely different world.
Exactly. Yeah. Great stuff. Trippy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck, everybody. No, that's cool. That's why we do this. We do this because we love talking and we love people that bring such a different viewpoint on life, and think about these things deeply, because I don't think we do it enough in life. I think we get so caught up in the mundane, let's get to work on time and, pay our bills on time and do the things that we got to do. But when it comes down to it, it's about enjoying life. It's about seeing the beauty in the small things and where do we fit in? And that question is maybe something that propels you, to the end of your existence, I mean, and I'm the type of person, I really get into stuff. I like to get I'll find something and hobby wise or whatever. And I love the way things work. I like figuring things out. I like figuring myself out in the process. There's a lot of learning that goes on a daily basis, and we got to do more of that, you know?
A lot of people, I think, are being forced to do more of that now with everything that's going on.
And that's great.
That, what's that saying? It's like, the more lonely you are, the more time you need to spend alone.
Yes.
And I wonder, how many people are really, for the first time, maybe in their whole lives, actually getting to know who they are. Yep. Right. And feel comfortable being alone. And then also how many people are just losing their minds.
Yep. Yep.
It's weird.
Yeah, for sure. But hopefully we're be able to come out of this and realize what's important. You know, we are pack animals. We need each other. We need positive influences in our life. If you have negative influences that you're not able to reconcile in your life, you need to let those go, and you need to live a karma positive life, you know, whatever that means to you. If that means, you know, religion or spirituality, or if that means yoga or, you know, football, whatever it is, you know, do it.
Go Utes.
Hey, that's a nice t-shirt you got on there.
Oh, thanks, dude. It's brand new. Do you like that? It's one of the official What's Your Weird Story t-shirts.
Where'd you get that?
It's funny that you ask. I just got it off the brand new spreadshirt.com site for the What's Your Weird Story podcast. There's no www. You just go straight to shop.spreadshirt.com/what's without the apostrophe WHATS hyphen YER WEIRD-STORY, and that'll take you right there.
I mean, you can never own enough clothing.
Well, it's true, Barry. There's t-shirts for the ladies because, you know, they're cut differently. There's hoodies, which are really cool. There's 2 different kinds of hoodies, and there's also tote bags, so you can tote your stuff.
That's so cool, man.
So if you guys go out to spreadshirt.com, What's Your Weird Story, currently there are 2 designs, but there will be more going up very soon. So just keep your eyes out for that. And if you decide to get one of our shirts, tag yourself on Instagram to ours or Facebook. Show your love. Show us what you got. Let's see your true colors. That was such an awesome conversation that we just had. But we also wanted to mention, Bobbi, that you are a musician and you're doing some really cool stuff and stuff that I love, the synth vein stuff. So you're in the synthwave right now, and I wanted to make sure that we got you the time and to talk about that a little bit, and to maybe get some people to come and listen to you on where they can find you. So tell us about that.
Oh, well, I like to make synthwave music. I like pushing keys down and pushing knobs around and making things go wow, wow, wow.
Cool.
I have an awesome process where I pretty much watch really, really old alien-themed movies, and then I get inspired and I go boop boop.
Cool.
But I don't have like any special place that you can go. I just like doing it, and I like people listening to it and hearing about what they like and what they think. So I just kind of throw it everywhere. It's on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, just wherever. You type in Eyeskeen, Iyeskeen, and you'll pull stuff up. And that's about it.
Sweet. So you just release like songs at a time? Do you do records, EPs?
No, none of that.
Okay.
Nothing fancy. I just when I feel like writing, and usually it comes in waves. You know, I just won't sleep, and I'll just write and play around with stuff. And
cool.
But yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason. I just love to do it, and I like talking with other people who like synth music. It's definitely a niche thing. There's a very small group of people, a certain type of person who likes that.
That's cool.
I think, you know, Bobbi, I think that there's more people out there than you realize, because like I've always loved synth. And because, I mean, I'm a kid of, you know, when I was really little was when New Wave hit, you know. So those are some of my first memories. Like one of the very first piece of music that I bought on my own when I was, I think, about 10 years old was a Thompson Twins and cassette. And so that basically set me up for life. So where I've always loved synth stuff. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are into it. It's just also, you know, you haven't found your audience yet, but you will, and that's what we're hoping to.
I think it's just starting to become a thing with like younger people because of how it's picking up in movies and stuff. But now I'm starting to see all these like sub synth genres. So there's like dark synthwave, and then there's vaporwave, which I'm not a super big fan of. It's very quiet and chill, and I don't think I'm quiet or chill. I can't do it.
Nice.
But you know what cassette tapes make me think of? When I was like 10 or so, living in Goldsboro, and I wish I could find this. It's not eerie. I wish it was, but it's not. But in my backyard, my mom gave me an REM tape.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I recorded over it news forecasts for that day. And then I buried it in my backyard for some reason. And I'm tempted to go back and see if I can dig that up, because I kind of want to know like what a 10-year-old's news forecast sounds like stuck in the
That sounds
that'd
awesome.
Be so cool.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I remember you telling that story before, and I thought that was just so awesome. And it's such a great little kid thing to do as well, because that totally made sense in your mind to do that.
Yeah.
And it just to not only just, well, okay, we'll tape over this, and we'll do the news, because obviously you're a newscaster,
of course.
and then we'll bury it, because that's what you do with the news.
Yeah.
So
now I'm very hot.
That's awesome.
Cool deal. All right. Well, I just wanted to make sure everybody go and check out Bobbi's music, and you need to put some more. I just followed you on Spotify, so put some more tunes up.
The one you like should actually be on there in the next couple of days. It has to be approved, and then they do like a
good and
whatever.
Cool. And stick around, because the one that I like, we're going to play that after we end the episode here, so you can check it out. It's really cool.
Yeah,
and
the one that's already on there, the one called Speeding. That's not a good one. That's old. I didn't know what I was doing. It's literally the first song I ever made with a synth, and it's horrific. But,
Well, yeah, but
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
Got to start somewhere, and people can see the artist as they grow.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Well, thanks again. You always got some great stories for us. We really appreciate it, and come back anytime, because it's a joy to talk to you, and we'll keep listening to all the awesome music that you make.
Thank you. You guys as well.
Hey Barry,
yeah.
Have you ever seen a goat sucker?
What?
Goat sucker, chupacabra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen one of those?
I haven't seen one personally, but I've heard about them.
Yeah, me too. If anybody's got a goat sucking story, if you got a goat sucker story, we want to hear it. If you got a Bigfoot story, we want to hear it. If you got a Loch Ness Monster story, or a Lake Champlain story, or Ogo Pogo story, or an Oingo Boingo story. Wait, that was an 80s band. Anyway, you got a weird cryptid story, we want to hear it.
I didn't even know what a cryptid was, man.
Yeah, dude, cryptids. They're like the animals that haven't been necessarily proven by science. They're the ones on the edge. They're not necessarily known animals, but they're known animals. We don't have the bodies or anything like that. So they're kind of like half myth, half story, based in reality, but still in that weird mystery area that we don't know about yet. Cryptids are fun.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how you explain a pencil that shows up from out of nowhere, but that's a cool story, man. It's a really cool story.
Yeah, and just and of course that was the tipping point. That was the one story that she had, and that she could think of off the top of her head, and of course, all of a sudden, everything else kind of, started coming back in, and like we said, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Where we're talking to people, and they start remembering stuff. Even ourselves, we'll start remembering stuff when we're talking about different kind of, these different kinds of subjects. So it's really cool. So that just goes to show everybody out there listening, that your one little story is, we still want to hear your one little story if you got one little story.
Yep.
But sometimes that one little story is just what's holding back a lot of other stories. So we encourage you to come on. Don't be hesitant. Just come on and join us and be part of the show. And like Bobbi, and if you got something to plug, like or we're aware of something that you should be plugging, like Bobbi's music, we'll do that for you as well. If you do a podcast, we'll promote that. We'll let you talk about that. But we just want to hear all you guys' stories, and because we just enjoy talking to everybody, and we enjoy hearing the stories, and they're fun. And Bobbi, thanks again for sharing, because those were awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobbi, for coming on. It really, you start off and you're over in one part of the world, and then we end up in, talking about the universe and string theory and all these different things. And it's cool because, your story may be something that sparks a bigger conversation about life and about all these different things that we all think about. But sometimes we don't necessarily have the opportunity to voice them and vocalize your thoughts. And so when you have, other people to sort of bounce ideas off of, this is why we do the podcast, is to give people a chance to talk about that stuff, and a community of people to hear it. So we're just fortunate that we have people that want to come on, and we strongly encourage folks to come on and be a part of it.
And I do want to... and as one of the many conversations pieces that we did touch on, we talked about, Bobbi brought up suicide and people thinking about suicide. And, we want to, obviously, if you're having suicidal thoughts, or if you're having anything like that, contact somebody, a family member, a friend. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and that's 1-800-273-8255. And, because we want you around. We want everybody to be around and enjoy life, because, you get into bad points in life, but you can rebound, you can rebuild, and you have the infinite possibility to always do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Will and always do so. And plus, think about all the stories that you're going to hear as we keep carrying on with the What's Your Weird Story podcast. That's
right. Yeah, it's important for folks to do that, and so we are. We're a platform for folks to talk about anything, and that's what we do. So come on the podcast, guys.
And it's totally fine to have those kind of thoughts. It's just don't act on them. So
that's right.
All right. Well, on that note, let's change gears completely, and let's talk about what we have coming up over the next 2 weeks.
Cool.
As if you've been counting with us, you will know that this is episode number 99.
That's right.
Which is crazy in itself.
It's crazy.
But we have got an episode 100. We've got so much stuff for you guys. It's so big. We're splitting it up over 2 episodes. And what we basically got, we've got a bunch of new friends coming on and sharing some stories, but we also have some of our old friends who everybody loves their stories coming on. So we've got some new stories that you haven't heard from Chad and Alta. We've got a really great story from our buddy Sam about going to school to be an undertaker. We've got our buddy Meetus is back, who are our very first guest, and just a whole lot of good, cool, neat stuff. Short stories, long stories, all sorts of stuff. Just huge variety of stuff. And over the next couple of weeks, and it's just kind of a big thank you for listening to us, and thank you to all of our guests for being on. And we're just so thankful that we've made.
Yeah,
we're surprised and completely just amazed that we've made it to 100 episodes. We hope you've been there with us too. So.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It really has been, and we're looking forward to the future. So yeah, just we're going to continue doing this, and continue growing the audience, continue building new parts to the subdivisions in Weirdsville, and hope you guys come along with us for the ride.
That's right. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you again, Bobbi. We will see you, well, rather, you will hear us next week on the 100th episode of What's Your Weird Story. In the meantime, be safe.
Be weird. This is Ice Keen with Walk to the Planet 9.
As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The stories presented on the What's Your Weird Story